thank you for joining us at the ever-improving No Soundbites Allowed podcast. My name is Michael Vasquez. We thank you for joining us in this adventure of describing the politics that go on in our nation on a personal and local level as often as possible, giving you, the audience, more than just 30 seconds to understand what's going on in our nation. We look forward to joining you as we go. Just sit back, enjoy the ride. Please remember, if you like the episodes, like it, share it, let other people know, and if you can, please donate, even if it's $2, even if it's $5, because it all makes a difference. We thank you, and here we go. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. I'm your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and I'm happy to be here with you. I hope everyone is doing well. I am so appreciative. I thank you, each and every one of you, for coming in and checking out the program, and hopefully you'll share it. I look forward to your comments and your statements, because you make the difference. You're the reason why I do this every week, and so I'm happy to be here with you guys. Now, there are a lot of things I wanted to talk about this week. As a reminder, tomorrow, which is October 13th, in Ross Park in the Binghamton area, if you happen to be in Binghamton, New York, you can go to Ross Park. There's a giveaway. It's a charity event for kids and young adults, and even adults of all ages, to be able to learn about chess and to play with a rated chess pro in the region, Mr. John Cordisco. The mayor of Binghamton, Rich David, is going to be at the event as well, and you're more than welcome. Kids will be able to get brand new chessboards, not just those little $5 chessboards, but actually very nice, well-made chessboards, and so that's something that's available for everyone. If you're in Binghamton, and take the chance, go outside, have a nice time, learn chess, learn how to play better chess maybe, and enjoy the opportunity that'll be there. That'll be from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. So please do enjoy that. So I do want to mention that. But there's a lot that I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of issues that have just been bugging me. I mean, bugging me a lot. And one I'm going to get into in the later part of the podcast. I'm going to be talking about what's happened with the GOP, in particular, and very specifically, talking about what's going on with the attack over in New York City by Antifa. And I'm going to talk about that. But before I get to that, let's talk about race in America. It's a touchy subject. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it. I think we actually need to talk about it. It's a very important issue, and it's a very serious issue. So, it's something that, like many people, it angers me to be able to, because we have to have this conversation. In fact, I wrote an article yesterday, which is on my Voss Political blog, and you can see this, and this was also something that I said that was on Facebook. And what I was talking about there is speaking about Kanye West and Jim Brown, because I have to. And I really, because I have to. It's because it's such a big deal. And everyone was going crazy about it yesterday, today, the last couple of days. Everyone's been going crazy in the news media, talking about Kanye West meeting with President Trump. And quite honestly, who cares? It's not that big a deal. It's a big deal because the far left is making it a big deal. But let's actually think about that. Why is it so important? Because if we remember, Kanye West, who is an entertainer, and before I even go further, I don't like entertainers in politics. I don't think that they make a difference. I don't think they're important. Entertainers are really great at influencing the emotions that we all have, to touch on happiness, to make us laugh, or sadness and make us cry, to catch us with awe in stars up in the space of science fiction, Star Wars, that kind of thing. That's what they do. Whether it's in a song or acting, writing, this is what they do. Fantastic. They are excellent at that. None of that has to do with taxes, the national debt, national security, international relations, trade, deals. It has nothing to do with anything. That's not what we're listening to them for. And actually, they're not important on that. There's almost none of the entertainers that you may hear about on any given day about various issues that really matter. Okay, I know Cynthia Bassinet. She's a great person. She actually has gone to the UN. She's an advocate of women. I respect her. Don Cheadle has actually gone out into Africa to fight, to deal with Rwanda, to deal with the Sudan and the genocide that's happening there. I got a lot of respect for him on working on that for years and years. So that's something that's important. And I'll give credit where it's due. But let's look at, Alyssa Milano. Not really. When we're talking about people like Jay-Z and Beyonce, who cares? Quite honestly, who cares? And there's a whole list, especially once we get into the rappers. Who cares what they think? I mean, they're not important people. Just because they have wealth and they have some measure of fame, who cares? Basketball players, who cares? Quite honestly, they're not important. So the real thing that we have to wonder about is, why is it such a big deal? Well, it's because they know how to tap into our emotions. And because they can do that, they're a wonderful tool at trying to promote an idea based on emotions, without any facts, without substance, but being able to get that emotion out there. They emote very well, which is a great distraction from facts. And we see that a lot, especially in the Democratic Party, especially in the far left. They like to emote, but they don't like to talk. They don't like to debate and actually have a conversation based on fact and logic. That's not what they do. They really don't. And just analyze what's going on. And we see this especially because of what's happened with Kanye. The fact is that in 2005, Kanye West, after the Katrina hurricane hit New Orleans, and they were in the whole area was devastated, no question. And Kanye West was on a charity event broadcast nationally, and he took that opportunity to make a political statement, which was the wrong time to do that. He could have made a statement before or after, but instead he made a statement during. And he said that, President Bush hates black people, which is not accurate to all, in all fact and all credulity. No, that's not true, but whatever. He made his statement. And because of that, he became a darling of the far left. And people just lauded him. They thought he was fantastic. They cited how he's a billionaire or nearly a billionaire. He has a clothing business. He makes music. He's a superstar. Fantastic guy. Yay, yay, yay. And they loved him. Fast forward 12 years, and here we are in 2018, and we're hearing that Kanye West says, hey, he likes President Trump because he's doing a good job. Because, as he said in his press conference, that he believes that President Trump is doing a good job on a lot of the issues that actually matter, which he has. It's been cited that he has about 289 accomplishments that he has promised he would be doing. So it's moving the country forward. We're closer to peace in North Korea. Our economy's doing gangbusters. An economy that we were told could never recover has not only recovered. We have 4.2 GDP growth. We have 3.7% unemployment, the lowest unemployment ever for African Americans. These are wonderful things that we're seeing. We're seeing improvements. Our trade deals around the world are being worked on and improving. None of it happens overnight. Much of it is not final yet, but there's been a lot of improvement. And so he recognizes that and says, hey, I support my president. He is the face of our nation around the world. We have to support him, and he's doing a good job. Nothing wrong with that. And here's a few other things that he could do better at. And I want to talk to him about those ideas, like prison reform. Okay, fantastic. That's where Kanye wants to go. Suddenly, the same man in 2005 to 2017 who was considered a genius, who is a billionaire businessman, who's a superstar entertainer that the left loved, suddenly they turn around and within 2 days they've decided that he can't read, that he is a house Negro, which, by the way, when they say things like that, that's meant to be an insult, and they're using Negro instead of certain other N words that's normally attributed to black people. Okay, it's not subtle. And so they are denigrating him as a human being, as a businessman, as every facet of his life. They're considering it to be horrible. Suddenly, out of the blue, total turnaround, that he's somehow crazy and he's He's no different than he was in 2005. Nothing has changed, except he's now saying that our president's doing well and our country's doing well, and he supports that. See, there's the thing. He's not emoting. He's not actually just parroting something that a politician wants. He actually has his own idea, his own point of view, whether we agree with it or not, just the same as whether we agreed with it or not in 2005. He has an opinion. He has a point of view. He is exercising his freedom of First Amendment to be able to exercise that thought. And we're seeing that the far left are using individuals of color, many of them people you've never heard of before and probably will never hear of again, to attack him on a personal, very, very personal level. Again, not addressing anything factual, but actually just attacking him on an emotional level. And this is what I mean by, we see this a lot with the far left. They have nothing to say about what they're going to say. That Kanye West is not a billionaire. No, he's almost a billionaire. He's a very successful businessman. They're going to say he's not a superstar in terms of music. He's already gotten awards for that. They can't take him down on that. What, he's not black? Look at him in the camera. Of course he is. So what they have to do is just somehow destroy his character and tear him down because they don't like what he has said. And I have to say, and as I said in my article, well, why? He's just one man. He's one man expressing his idea. Who cares? In particular, he's an entertainer. And his opinion is no greater or no worse than mine. Well, depending on the subject. I mean, some people, I'm not going to talk about brain surgery. I will go to Dr. Ben Carson and talk with him about that because I don't know enough about it. My opinion about brain surgery is moot. It doesn't matter because I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't talk to Kanye about the music industry. I know nothing about it. It's not something I know anything about. My opinion would be moot. Well, guess what? Kanye doesn't really know a whole lot about politics. He never did. He wasn't expressing politics. He was expressing his opinion. What's wrong with that? I can respect that. Even though I don't agree with him, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says. I do agree with what he said about President Trump and our nation, but I don't agree with a lot of his points of view or the way he expresses them. But why do we see that we have to attack this individual? Why is the far left so terrified? I mean, this is a serious question because this addresses race relations in our nation right now. If you have an opinion that the left does not like, you are evil. There's something wrong with you. That's what they tell us, that you're some kind of Nazi because you didn't agree with them. You're some kind of evil person because you didn't agree with them. You're causing microaggressions or outright aggressions because you don't agree with them. That somehow you are the worst of the worst. You have to be. Because if you aren't, then their entire system of thought, their hierarchy of how people live and how people interact with each other suddenly falls apart if you aren't as evil as they make you out to be. And I think that's the scary part for them. I think that's the reason why they're after Kanye so much. It's not because Kanye is a good or bad person or that he's smart or he's not smart. It's because if he doesn't fall into this ideal that they have created, this kind of system that they have put together, and if he's not absolutely evil, well, then the whole thing falls apart. Because if Kanye isn't evil and he's actually a good guy or at least for the last 12 years, he's been a good guy that they've been supporting, then, what happens? Then what about all these other emotions they told us we're supposed to have when someone says, I'm a Republican or I'm a conservative? It falls apart. When people like myself, they say, well, you can't be well-read. I'm very well-read. I know many people who are very well-read, and they happen to be Republicans and conservatives. Has nothing to do with our political preference, has nothing to do with our ability to read or comprehend, and nor does it have anything to do with our ability to speak. So when you start thinking about the facts, then it suddenly changes this conversation. And suddenly it makes it very clear, wait a minute, that's a racist statement. They are being the very racist they are attacking people for. Because someone had an opinion doesn't make them a racist. Just because Kanye has an opinion, whether you like it or not, doesn't mean that he must be a racist or a sexist or an ageist or a transphobe or any of these other statements that they like to label people with. No, what that means is he has an opinion that's not the same as yours. That's fine. People have that all the time. But the left can't leave it at, well, you have another opinion. Well, your opinion must be worse. We must devalue it. Otherwise, someone else may listen to your opinion and say, you know, it makes sense. Maybe that's a better position to take. Maybe I should be on that side too. It's about political power. And it's insulting. Because they're doing things, they're using black people in the worst way possible. When Don Lemon came out and he laughed when people were saying that Kanye West can't read. I'm sorry, that is insulting. If I were to say directly to Don Lemon or in a national format and went out and said Don Lemon can't read because he's a Democrat or that he has liberal ideology, you know what? Everyone in the world will turn around and say that's a stupid statement. How dare you say that? Matter of fact, that's kind of racist. And you know what? You would be right. Why does it change because Don Lemon said it? It doesn't change. It does not change at all. To have these people say this just because, one, they're black, and two, because they're on some news program doesn't matter. I'm a member of the press. That doesn't mean I can just say anything I want about someone just because of the color of their skin. That is a racist attitude. And to say that people are somehow inferior because of their political ideology, that's insane. That's stupid. Do I speak about the left and say I disagree with them on many issues? Absolutely. On facts. Based on here's the fact and here's my conclusion and this is why I think they may be wrong. That doesn't mean that any individual Democrat suddenly is evil or because of the color of the skin of any individual Democrat that they happen to be evil or their sex or their sexual preference or any other part of them. I just don't agree with that ideology and I don't agree with that issue. And there are many issues and many ideas that I'm sure I may agree with or to some different degree. I've had lots of conversations with people on the left and some of their ideas I think are at least partially interesting, but that's fine. That's how we get to better ideas because we have a conversation. But when we throw race in there and we suddenly say, because you are this race, you can't. Stop right there. It doesn't matter what it is you're saying they can't. If you're saying they can't because of their race, then guess what? The problem isn't that person. It's the person who's saying you can't. Because that is a racial, that is a sexist, that is a transphobic, that's whatever ism and ist you want to put out there. You're the problem. The people who are the problem right now are the Democrats who are attacking Kanye because of his opinion. You can say, as I did in 2005, I don't agree with that opinion. And I think it was the wrong time to make that statement. Absolutely. Same thing I said about the footballers, all the football players, when they're kneeling. You're entertainers. You're getting paid for a job. That's not the time to express yourself. That's the wrong format, as well as I think the wrong form of expression. That's my point of view. And that's fine. That has nothing to do with them individually. They may all be great people. I don't know. And I don't honestly care. But I'm not attacking them. They're not suddenly idiots because of what they did, that they don't have an IQ because they kneeled. No, it just means that their expression is something that I have disagreements with. And whatever their race or color or beliefs, sexual beliefs or preferences and sexuality, who cares? Because all those other things are just window dressing meant to get a certain emotion and hide from the fact that what's being said is a terrible thing that doesn't deserve to be said about anyone. And if it can't be said by someone on the right, it can't be said by someone on the left. It's that simple. Life is really that simple. So it's a very aggravating issue to me. And I hope it's been, this gets me, I'm trying to be very professional and at the same time I want to get very angry. And I'm kind of stuck in between the two. So I hope this is making sense to a lot of people and it's coming across properly, because I want to get very angry, but I also want to be very intellectual about it. And it's very difficult to do that when I'm listening to people use racism to try and justify their actions. And it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. But there are other things that I want to talk about. I did want to get that off my chest, and you can check out it's a very short article, just a statement that I had yesterday an outburst talking about this, and you can look that up. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come right back, and we'll be talking about what happened, the breaking news that happened today, October 12th, over in New York City at the headquarters of the GOP and with Antifa. It's scary. It's scary what's happening and what's going to happen because of it. But we'll talk about that in a second. thank you for joining me back here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast. This is your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, who appreciates and thanks you, each and every one of you, for being here. You guys make the difference. You're the reason why I do this every day, and I thank you so very, very much for that. And again, everyone, it's always wonderful to be here with you. You guys are just wonderful, wonderful people. I do want to give a little shout out. That was Matt Cornwell with his band, with the band of the Gypsies. He's a great guy. I enjoy his music a lot, and I made that music video, by the way. And but it was a great performance. It's one of many great performances that he does in the area, and I do advise people, check it out. You'll have a great time with it. I would also say that if you want some good food and have a nice musical experience, do drop by the Belmar. A friend of mine there is the owner, Ed Hickey. I want to give him a little shout out. If you're in Binghamton, in the Binghamton region, drop into the Belmar. It's a nice, relaxed little place. You can have a great time, and I do recommend it to many people. Now, with that all said, I do want to pick up from where we left off. So, yes, it's aggravating to me to hear people talk about race, to talk about Kanye West in a racial manner just because they don't like his politics. That's ridiculous, and that's insane. It's stupid. We are better than that. We are better than that as a nation. The far left is better than that. I know too many people on the far left who I speak with on a regular basis. I may not agree with them, but guess what? They can have a better conversation than devolving into nothing but racial politics and just using race and racism as an excuse for anything and everything. They're better than that, and I know that, and the nation deserves better than that. Now, speaking of that, let's also talk about the fact of what's happened in New York City, because, in fact, that's also part of what we're seeing here, and I just want to use my little sound effect here because I love my sound effects. I really, really do, and I can't read. Oh, there it is. And here it comes. Newsflash. Newsflash. I do like that sound effect. And what happened today in New York City, there is what's called the Manhattan Republicans Club in downtown Manhattan, or actually uptown Manhattan, which is the New York Republicans GOP headquarters. And that site was attacked today, actually late last night. And you can see in the image some of the damage that was done to the building, and you can see the spray painting that was done on the building. You can see that there was the notice from the New York GOP, from Chairman Cox, speaking about this event and what happened there, about the vandalism that happened, which was done by the organization Antifa. And we know it's an Antifa effect. When you look at the doors, you can see the spray paint. That's both the anarchy symbol, but also the Antifa symbol, which they use as an identifier to let people know that they are in fact out and about and up to no good. Now, Antifa has brought about a lot of attention, and there is a Binghamton-based Antifa, about 13 people, according to their website. They don't take a lot of credit for a lot of things. They don't speak a lot, but they are in the area. And they did elicit a comment from Mark Molinaro, who's the GOP candidate for governor of New York, and who said, quote, "This type of political violence and rank vandalism is unacceptable, and I call on New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to condemn this attack immediately and to call for calm on the political left." And that's something that we would hope that they would do, because according to the, not only did the Antifa radicals, hoodlums, criminals, when they went out there, they didn't just spray paint the doors. They didn't just break the windows. They didn't just vandalize the site by putting glue into the locks. No. What they also did is they left a threat. They left a threat, and this is the part that I think is very important. They said that this was just the beginning, that they're just starting up, and that there will be more. And they did this because, according to their letter that they had left on the door, that it's because they don't agree with the politics of Republicans. And because they don't agree with the politics of Republicans, because they don't agree with the fact that we have a capitalist society that has promoted peace and brought about the internet that we're looking at right now, and that we have cell phones, which we've seen used, that I use on a regular basis. I think we all do. And all of the technology created by capitalism, they don't like that. And because they don't like this, they want to impose force. They want to use physical force against people, and they plan to do it more and more. That's a very dangerous thought. Now, I've been talking about this for a lot of years. In particular, in the Binghamton area in 2016, when Citizen Action invited and brought in Black Lives Matters into the region. I was talking about it then. I've been talking about it since. When I was at the event for the Political Leaders of Tomorrow, and they held an event in Binghamton, New York, talking about how it's okay to vandalize property if it's owned by white people, because that's being a homeowner and landlord is a form of slavery if you're black and you're renting a property. That's stupid. That's stupid. That's just racist rhetoric. No, these are fascists. They say they're anti-fascist. They use fascist techniques. They have fascist reasoning and methodology. These people are evil. Quite honestly, they're evil people, and they do evil things. And attacking the headquarters. I mean, imagine this: if the Democratic Party, if the headquarters of the New York Democratic Party was attacked and vandalized, and someone left a note saying that they were going to come back and do more, and that they were going to affect others who happen to be Democrats, you would see the entire state flying off the handle. You'd hear Governor Cuomo nonstop on the news. You'd hear this on the radio and the TV and across Facebook, talking about, you can't do this. How dare you? It's such a racist, such an evil and vile act. How could you possibly get away with this? And these people would be demanded that the police would do nothing but find these individuals who did this. That's what you would hear if it was a Republican group that did that to Democrats. Except Republicans didn't do that. It were Democrats, Antifa, the far left, the furthest left of the far left, the radicals. But these radicals are not, this isn't a new thing. This isn't something that they haven't done before. We've seen this in Berkeley, where they were called thugs, as they rightly are, which is part of the reason why they were classified as domestic terrorists. We've seen them with their cells in other parts of the nation, in Baltimore and in Ferguson. These individuals thrive on violence based on race, based on their political views and their political values. And just in the same way that we see people attacking Kanye West because he has a political preference and he expressed it, well, when political parties express their political beliefs, we see Antifa come out and their only answer is, we have to use violence. That's wrong. That's wrong, especially in the United States. You know where that's right? In North Korea, in China. That's where we see the force being used to silence people. Remember Tiananmen Square? I'm old enough, I do remember it. If you're not, look it up. Yes, Tiananmen Square, where the Chinese government used tanks to silence people. Where in North Korea, people have been starved to death because they have the wrong ideas. We have the gulags that were in the Soviet Union, and they were used to silence people. And they've used radiation poisoning to silence people. We have in Turkey right now a reporter who's gone missing and is expected to be dead, sadly, because the reporter went out there and he was speaking about Saudi Arabia. He's a Turkish reporter, and he was in Saudi Arabia, and he was critical of the Saudis, and for that he was killed. You know what? Those are the kinds of people who actually go out there and use violence to try and push their ideology. That's something that we would expect to see from ISIS. So when I hear that, and I see and I know that Antifa has been listed as a domestic terrorist group, I'm not surprised. They are. And they use those tactics of terrorism. And that's what this is. It's meant to be a terrorist act. And it's not going to change the Republican Party in New York. No, of course not. Because we're going to still be here. We're still Republicans. We're still going to go out and do what we do. But, which is give people another option separate of what the Democrats do, to try and teach people how to fish rather than feed them fish. We don't want people to be dependent on the government, or at least not as much so as the Democrats seem to do. But that's fine. That criticism is fine. And that ideology is fine. But what we see is that because some people like that, because people like Kanye West, because there are black conservatives that exist, like myself and many, many others, Charles Payne, Ben Carson, so many others, because of that, well, that's why we're seeing them lose their minds. And their only answer, rather than coming to us and saying, well, let me give you a debate, let me give you an argument, a discussion, some facts that you believe, that they believe may be convincing, and say, well, no, there's a better way. No, their answer is, you're going to do this because of force. Because if you don't, we're going to harm you. Because we're going to destroy your property. We're going to disrupt your lives and those around you. That's insane. How is it that any Democrat could possibly allow this to happen? And how could they not denounce it forcefully, actively? But yet we're not seeing that. Because what we are seeing is Hillary Clinton saying, well, we need to be uncivil until we can gain power. That power equals civility somehow. And that Democrats, if they're not in power, have no choice but to be uncivil, to be essentially to say that they should incite violence and disruption and disrupt people's lives because they're not in power. That's a tantrum. Children do that. Very small children do that. But that's what Hillary Clinton's called for. We have Maxine Waters, who's gone out and said that you should hunt down Republicans and to just individuals who work in the government or who are Republican, have Republican ideals, to go and follow them and chase them down when they're in a restaurant, when they're in a supermarket, when they're taking care of their families, to go and harass them. We've seen this happen to Pam Bondi. We've seen this happen most recently to Ted Cruz and his wife. Not because they were doing anything, not while they were out there promoting Republican ideals and politics because that's their job and that's what they do for a living and that's what they believe in. No, because they were trying to have Candace Owens. They were trying to have food. They were just trying to eat a meal, to go shopping, to spend some time with some friends, getting away quite possibly from the politics of the day. But more importantly, just living their lives, being Americans. And yet the answer from the left, more and more from the total left, not just the far left, the total left is, well, no, you can't have those ideas. And if you have them, we have to come after you. That should be scary and terrifying to everyone in America. When anyone says that some degree of force has to be used because you have expressed an idea, that is endangering not only the First Amendment, the Constitution, the core of our nation. It's something that's an attack on everyone. Because I guarantee you, if today I may be the target because I'm a Republican and I'm conservative, well, tomorrow you may be the target because of whatever reason. You're wearing the wrong clothes. You don't say the right thing to the right people. Maybe you don't support an idea that they say you should. Maybe you don't agree with raising taxes. We've heard Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, many of the Democrats have said they're going to raise taxes if they win in the 2018 midterm elections. Vote however you want. I don't care. Have a reason for the vote. Vote for them if you want to. But they've said that if they were able to take over the House and take over the Senate, they're going to increase taxes and in effect, end the growth in this nation, to increase the unemployment rate in this nation. That is their goal. That's one of the things they want to do. And when they're doing that, I have to stand back and say to myself, okay, that's your idea, and it's not very attractive, and I'm a Republican, and I like the growth of the nation. I like that our economy is doing better. I like the fact that there's less unemployment in the nation, so I wouldn't vote for that. And their answer is, well, then we have to chase you down, and we have to destroy your property, and we have to disrupt your life and anyone around you because we don't agree with that. Does that make sense to anyone? Is that a convincing argument to anyone? Is that a debate tactic that anyone would approve of? Anyone. Can anyone tell me that you think this is a good idea? that because someone doesn't agree with a fundamental issue, that you would use violence against them otherwise. Does it make sense? Does anyone agree with that? How dare Antifa go out there and use violence and destroy property and break the law because they don't like the Republican ideals? Well, if you don't like them, go and get a podcast. Go out there and write on Facebook. Get a website. Elect some officials and change the laws. Change people's minds. Give them an effective reason to believe what you believe. And if you can't, then reevaluate what you believe, because perhaps it may be wrong. If only a fringe of people believe what Antifa believes, then maybe what Antifa believes is not very much in the ideals of America. Maybe most Americans reject it because they know that both the ideals and the way that they are presented is distasteful, to say the least. So I don't agree with Antifa. And I do agree with Mark Molinaro that Governor Cuomo should be out there at the top of his lungs saying, don't you dare bring that into our state. Don't you dare try and come back and do this again. They should be. I can tell you that before I came on here today, which is October 12th, I found out about the news a little bit later than a few people in terms of the news media. And I did give a call out to Representative Claudia Tenney, the incumbent congresswoman for the New York 22nd. She was already at an event, so I'm waiting for a response from her team. And I know I got in touch with them a little bit late on a Friday, so I'm not surprised. Equally, I also called at 5:25. I tried to reach Anthony Brindisi, who is the Democratic candidate for the New York 22nd District, for his comment. And of course, it was Friday. I did leave a message for him. Anthony has my phone number. I've known him for 5 years now. So he has my phone number. We've spoken before. He can give me a call if he wishes, and I will convey his thoughts, because I want to ask both of them, both Congresswoman Tenney and Anthony Brindisi, their thoughts on this attack, and if they would denounce Antifa and the use of force to promote an idea, especially from Anthony Brindisi, because in the New York 22nd District, his largest group of supporters and his main core group of supporters that he first met with last year in June, was Citizen Action, which in Citizen Action is also part of the Black Lives Matters and Political Leaders of Tomorrow movement. Those are all involved. They're all essentially the same group of people. And so when we're speaking about, and very likely the members of Antifa may or may not, I don't know for a fact, may or may not be part of Political Leaders of Tomorrow or Citizen Action or Black Lives Matters in the Binghamton area. And therefore, that makes it part of the New York 22nd District. And I would like to hear if Anthony Brindisi, since he is a Democrat, and this is one of his largest bases of support, if he would ask Citizen Action to denounce this, and if he would denounce this violence, and to ensure that they do not take action here in the southern tier of New York, or anywhere in central New York, or anywhere in New York. Because maybe they won't listen to him. Even though they support him as a candidate, maybe they won't listen to him. But then again, maybe they will. Maybe that's the extra voice they need. But more importantly, I would love to hear whether Anthony Brindisi believes that the answer to people who disagree with him is violence. I expect that his answer would be no. Based on my conversations with him, that's too far for even Anthony Brindisi. And we disagree politically on many issues. And we've had many a conversation about it, as I have with many, many politicians. But I don't believe that Anthony Brindisi would condone violence, but I would like to hear him make that statement, because I haven't heard it yet. I haven't seen it yet. And he should, as should every other candidate that is a Democrat in the nation, because this is their party. Antifa is their party. That is their group. And so far, throughout the nation, the Democratic Party has been inciting, emboldening, and supporting, and even excusing the actions of Antifa and the far left. What you're going to hear in the news tonight is that Mr. Gavin McInnes is the reason why this happened. that he's the fault. The fault is the Republican Party because Gavin McInnes is going to speak. And you're going to say to me, well, Mike, who is Gavin McInnes? Gavin McInnes is he's the founder of the Proud Boys. It's a group of far-right individuals. We have people on the right who are on the far side of it as well. And they're the far right of the Republican Party. And they have had clashes with Antifa in many, many locations, many, many times. And Mr. McInnes, Gavin McInnes, is a unique individual, to say the least. Do I agree with everything he has to say? No, absolutely not. Then again, there's a lot of politicians I can say that about. He has his beliefs. That's fine. Do I agree with them all? No. Does that justify someone using violence? No. No, it does not. There's no reason for that. That isn't a justification. And just because Mr. McInnes may have unpopular or unpleasant ideas that he believes in, that doesn't mean you get to use violence against him. Whether you consider it a microaggression because he speaks what he thinks or not, that's not a justification. Just because he's speaking at an event, no different than Ben Shapiro if he were to be speaking at an event, no different than Dave Rubin if he were to be speaking at an event. Just because if I were speaking at an event, and I do, I just recently had an event at SUNY Broome College. Would it be any different? Antifa, as far as I know, the far left don't agree with most of the viewpoints that I have and I've had for the last 12 years that I've been publicly putting out in podcasts and articles and on radio and across this state. So when I've made speeches publicly, I know they don't agree with those viewpoints. Does that give them the right to destroy my property or to attack me? No. No more so than they would be justified in attacking anyone who's listening to this. Because you don't get that right. Speech, just because you're having someone speak, just because someone is speaking, doesn't mean that you get to be violent, that you get to attack them because you don't agree. That is wrong. I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat. I don't care if you're on the far right, far left. I don't care where you are on the spectrum. I don't care if you're a male or female, if you're polka dot, or if you're 1,000 years old. Doesn't make a difference. You don't get to use violence just because you don't like something. That's wrong. I think we all can agree with that. And we should all denounce this universally. And the people who did this, they should be caught and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And they should be made an example of to prevent this. And we should know that if someone has made a threat to continue to act out in violence because they don't like something, because it doesn't match their ideas, then we should all very much say in unison, then you should evaluate your ideas. If the only way you can promote your thoughts to increase taxes, to try and change income equality, to try and get some kind of change in race relations, those are your ideals. Fantastic. Obviously, there must be something wrong if the only way you can convince someone of these ideas is through the use of force. Maybe not the idea, maybe it's the way you want to push that idea. Maybe it's the extent that you want to take these ideas. Maybe it's just you. I don't know. But I can say that it's wrong. And I think everyone in their right mind would agree with that. I truly do. But what I'll say, and I'm going to end the episode here, is I'm very upset with the fact that Antifa not only has come into New York State, not only are they out here across the nation, that they're expressing this violence, and we're not hearing the same kind of vitriol that people have put against Kanye West for expressing an idea, his personal idea, because he's expressing himself. There's more vitriol against him than there is against Antifa actually using violence because people have an idea. That is a troubling place in our nation when the news media, the major news media, can't see the difference between these two things. To see that attacking someone for having an idea is just as bad as destroying someone's property for having an idea. And that there is no place in the United States for this. And that if they're using this, then they've gone the wrong way. They're on the wrong path. And they really need to stop and think. And we all should. And we should all evaluate that. But as I said, I'll end the episode here at this point. I hope that everyone finds this to be interesting. As you can see, we changed up the format, did a couple of new things. We're still changing it. Please let us know your comments on that. Any ideas you may have on how we can improve it and improve this process. I'll be having my live podcast tomorrow on Facebook using somewhat of this format. And we'll be talking about a lot of issues and whatever it is that's on your mind. We are always open to that. But until then, I thank you. I hope everyone is well. And we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.